Welcome to the Fresh and Fired Up podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Marshall, here with my co-host, the wild online fitness and nutrition coach, Haley Pindle. Welcome back. We missed you last week. I'm so happy to see you. We are here to inspire each other to excellence in health, fitness, and business. So let's get fired up.
I missed you too, by the way.
Oh, I know. Barely fall asleep at night, probably.
I genuinely did. Oh my gosh. So I wasn't here for 2 of your episodes last week. One of them I knew I wasn't going to be able to, but then the other one, things happen and then I have to leave. And I was genuinely sad. I was like, oh, this is a really great highlight of my week, and I missed it. And I was so sad, but I'm so happy. You never know what you got until it's gone. So I'm so stoked to be here today. It's literally so amazing for me. I love it.
Good. That makes me happy too. Well, it's an exciting time to just dive into things that either we've dealt with or dealing with, or our clients, right? Yeah. Mainly your clients, but also people that I am constantly interacting with, whether it be online or in person. I think there are universal things that we can go through as women, and fat loss can be a really big topic, and there is a ton of information out there. So today we want to talk about how to lose fat sustainably. We've had other episodes that we've talked about like weight loss and that whole term of weight, which you should go back and listen to that episode. I don't even know which one, but you can look through. Go back and literally scroll through the titles.
Something like that, 109, 110 kind of area.
Yeah. And you know what? Forget that. Just listen to every episode. They're so good.
Exactly. We are a wealth of knowledge. We were just talking about how intellectual we are. So
it's true. It's just because we're both wearing glasses.
Yeah.
If you can't see that because you're listening, you should go to the YouTube video and then you can see. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yes. We are currently sitting at like a ton of subscribers, right, Haley?
Oh my gosh. I think it's like 14,000.
14. Yeah, just add a couple extra zeros on there.
I added a K.
I know. Okay, you know what? I was listening to a video yesterday and there was this guy and he's talking about, so it's my friend who reposted it to her story. And the guy's like, yeah, when we started our podcast, we had 0 views. We had done 15 episodes with 0 views on every episode, but we just kept going. This guy has like 2 million subscribers now. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, this is good. This is good. We're not quite at 2 million yet, but we are.
Yeah, it's the same for everyone. Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, maybe I'm biased, but I think it's great. Plus,
you're totally biased.
Yeah, Mr. Beast and all of the YouTubers that are got millions of subscribers or followers or whatever they're called on there, they have spent at least 10 years like learning, posting, all of that. So we're babies. We got this.
Well, and so much of it is about the learning. Like, yeah, I know we joke like, oh, we're a wealth of knowledge, but really it's just that we're committed to growth mindset. And the fact that we're interviewing all these different people, you learn so much from the people that you interview. So of course, like, we're sharing this with our listeners for our listeners to learn, but it's like a super awesome bonus that we just get to interact with some really cool people and learn a ton.
Exactly. I totally agree.
So let's talk about fat loss. I'm a little distracted because my heater popped on. It's flipping cold here now.
Oh,
I feel like the fan is loud. I feel like I should go turn it off.
No, I can't hear it on my side. So I think you're good. I think all the listeners are good too.
Okay. So for all of you who are listening to this and it's still warm wherever you live, you should come visit Northern Alberta, Canada. It's great.
Nor, thank you.
The North. You gotta come here.
No, everyone thinks that we live in igloos. Kind of true. No, it's not.
Well, it is partially true. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk about how we can lose fat loss sustainably. We want to talk about calorie intake and what is a good idea versus what isn't a good idea. So let's hear it, Haley.
Sweet. Awesome. I love this topic because I see it so often, especially because we grew up in the diet culture, slashing your calories and like Weight Watchers, things like that don't really have an emphasis on protein or calories or macros and just go by points. So you don't really know what's going into your body or how it's affecting it. And it's kind of digging the hole for you deeper and deeper into not getting towards what you want, right? So protein is a very big thing in terms of calories in and calories out. And I see a lot of people who slash their calories next to nothing. And what that does is, one, you will lose muscle mass. And muscle mass is very, very precious when it comes to fat loss, because muscle is more metabolically demanding than fat mass. So the more muscle mass that you have on your body, the higher your BMR is. Okay, and that's part of your metabolism. So that's one of the issues that I see a lot of. And in terms of my approach towards actually losing fat and not losing muscle, because weight loss can also include muscle mass, which is not great. I was actually watching a documentary on Netflix. It took twins. So one of them did a plant-based diet, one of them did an animal-based diet, different amounts of protein. And one of the twins, they completely went off protocol and did exactly what diet culture wants you to do. They did a bunch of cardio. They ate way too few calories. And what happened was they did a DEXA scan at the start of their journey and a DEXA scan at the end of their journey. And what they found was, with these twins who went off plan and didn't eat protein, didn't eat enough calories, didn't strength train, they lost muscle and gained fat. So that's what's going to happen if you kind of listen to the diet culture, because weight loss does not equal fat loss, right? So what you want to do in terms of calories, you do want to be in a calorie deficit. That's no secret. It's just the exchange of energies. You need more calories out than calories in. However, you don't want to go to like 500 calorie deficit. I actually don't like that recommendation. I like more of a 10%. So like 200 to 300 per every 2 weeks. See how your body's responding. That's a huge factor, how your body is responding. If you are losing too much weight too fast, that's not a good thing, because some of that weight is going to be muscle mass. So while you
Yes.
track your progress, so if you're using the scale as a form of progress and you see that you are losing a lot of weight very quickly, some of that is going to be muscle, and that is a sign that you need to actually bump up your calories. So what I do with my clients is usually like a 200 to 300 calorie deficit after we have healed their metabolism. So like I said, a lot of my clients come to me from a past of really under eating. That's very common for women to be the smallest possible human beings we could ever be and eat next to nothing, only have a salad dressing on the side, nothing else on it, just lettuce and mustard.
And mustard. I've never eaten that before in my life, but I
I,
get you.
I see some of the really extreme dieters only use like condiments that are 0 calorie, and mustard is one of them, and I just can't fathom. I cannot fathom that. But they come to me with very like restrictive mindsets. So what we do is increase their calories and macros gradually, having a heavy focus on protein, because that's going to build your body and build muscles while you strength train. And we work our way up to a good maintenance calorie. So it's actually a lot more than what some of you might be thinking. Like, a lot of my clients are well above 2,000 calories a day. They're not tall. Their bodies are just like they're regular women, and they can build their calories up to around 2,500 calories. I did have a client who was at 2,700, and she's cutting on 2,300, which can actually seem like a lot for a lot of the listeners right now. But it's not, if you take the time and energy to build up your metabolism and not look for the quick fixes, because the quick fixes are not going to serve you as well as putting in the work and building up your metabolism, building up the muscle mass on your body, and then approaching fat loss as a more sustainable approach. And you can do that if your calories aren't next to nothing. So when you take more time to build up your metabolism and build a good foundation for yourself, cutting fat is so much easier, but you do have to put in the time and the work to do so.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that. I listened to a different podcast actually a while back, not our amazing podcast. It was another amazing podcast. It was actually Paul
Not as
Saladino.
amazing.
Paul Saladino, the carnivore MD guy.
Okay.
And it was actually a while ago, but they were talking about intuitive eating. And it's interesting. And I just want to throw this in there because I know if you are trying to lose weight, so either it can kind of either end of the spectrum. You're already under eating. You're probably already in a place where you're really restricting your calories, like you said, Haley. Now, it could be the opposite of that, where you're in a place where you're actually just overeating all the time. You're
Mhm.
overweight and you're overeating, or you're emotionally eating, right? I think it
Mhm.
could go either way.
Oh yeah.
But if it's daunting to track your calories, even if you do it for a certain, you can give me your take on this, but this is what I think. If you do it for a certain amount of time, that you actually reset your psychology around the food that you're eating, and you start to get a feel for how many calories are in different types of food, and also you just always default to more protein. And then aside from protein, having some fat, for like fat in your diet for variety, rather than going really heavy on the sugary foods, you're going to actually start to intuitively know more what your body needs. When you're really, really high in sugar and really low in protein, your intuitive eating is totally messed up, because your body is just like in like crazy sugar crave mode all the time. It's
Yeah.
like you're addicted to it. So you can't really trust your intuition at that point. It's not until you reset yourself with strength training and protein that you can actually start to eat on a regular basis and not have to think so much about your food and your calories. Because I know in the past that was a barrier for me. I'm like, I already have a packed schedule. I already have so many things I'm tracking and doing that I almost get into this anxiety state with tracking everything. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's just like, life is no fun anymore because I'm just tracking everything in my life and there's a billion schedules. And it's interesting because I do think that that's something you can goal towards as well. If you're in a place right now where you're not happy with your body in whatever way, in the way that it's either functioning, feeling, or looking, then just get yourself, tell yourself, I might only need to track it for a certain amount of time till I can reset and then get into a stride where I can do this a bit more intuitively. So
Yeah.
that's just my 2 cents for if you feel like tracking calories is daunting.
Yeah, and you actually brought up a good point. I like to say that you have to earn the right to intuitively eat.
Yes.
And I go through this in my program. So it starts out where we track macros loosely. Obviously, we don't want to be super restrictive because there is like the emotional aspect. I feel like people can get really emotional with the amount of calories that they're eating. And if they go over, then they're a failure and yada, yada, yada. So I think detaching yourself from the numbers is a very big part of actually successfully being able to track your macros and not feel like you're regressing. However, we do track our macros to get to our goals because you need data points. In
Mhm.
business, in anything, any goal that you want to achieve, you need to have data points, and it's really crappy to track, I gotta say. Um, I I have tracked macros for a very long time. I don't anymore because I have earned the right to intuitively maintain the body that I've built, and I can do it. I could probably lose weight or gain weight intuitively because I know what's on my plate. I kind of know what I'm eating. However, a lot of people don't. So you do have to go through a period of doing hard things until it becomes easy. And once you know what a portion size is, what sources of protein, what sources of carbs are going to serve you, how much fat is in an avocado, until you know and have that base knowledge, you are probably going to fail at intuitive eating. So, just going to get that out there. You do need to learn and grow as a human being and learn some nutrition if you do want to successfully maintain your results. And that's another thing that I have a little bit of a bone to pick about fad diets is they don't teach you anything but calories
Let's
and
pick the bones, Haley. Come on, hit me.
they don't teach you anything about what's actually affecting your body. And you made a good point too about sugar. And you see commercials and cereals, high sugar cereals is a part of a balanced breakfast and it's very carb heavy. And I like to call this naked carbs in the morning. It's the worst thing you can do.
Okay, I want to throw in 2 cents. I need to throw this in, Haley. And if you look at the stack of protein bars in the grocery store, you're gonna be deceived because you're gonna like walk up and you're gonna be like, "All right, these are all protein bars. They're all good." Flip them over and look at the ingredients, and if the first ingredient says like brown rice sugar or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Where you're
Yeah.
like, you're looking at it and you're like, "This bar looks like it's mostly Rice Krispies." And it has like high fructose corn syrup and like a list of like 50 sugars before you get to the protein. I mean, I'm not saying that you can't ever eat that. I'm just saying it might not be your best source of protein.
Yeah. And I feel the same about protein bars that are advertised as protein bars, but their first ingredient is like dates or something.
Yes.
And they're just very high in sugar. Dates aren't bad inherently. And I know a lot of people might be salty. Like, I do come from a past of like disordered eating, and seeing foods as good and bad was very
Right.
toxic for me. But I've healed that. And what I think a lot of people are missing the point is people come from past of disordered eating, and they go all the way to the other side of the pendulum where now health is not a concern. Like, all these healthy
Yeah.
things and diet things are not healthy anymore. So I'm going to go intuitively eat and just eat croissants for breakfast and have pizza for every other meal, where it's like, okay, but where's the happy medium? Like, there
Yeah.
is science to back up how foods affect your body. And if you do have a goal, you're going to have to listen to it. You can't just
Yes.
do whatever you want and expect the same thing.
What? I just want to do whatever I want. Well, okay, you know what's interesting? I don't know if this is kind of out in left field, but I'm just going to say it. When I'm eating protein, there are certain types of protein, like if it comes to like salmon, I love salmon. I could eat so much of it. I'm like, this is so good. And then I love steak, right? I would just, to
Same.
me, steak is cake. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need cake because I'm eating steak. Just hit
Oh,
me
yeah.
with another one, right? But there are times we have a lot of ground beef in our freezer because we'll buy a whole cow at a time. And then my husband hunts, so we have like 4 freezers. It's like elk and moose and venison. And so you want your choice of red meat, come on
Yes.
over. Northern Alberta is where you want to be, right?
Already booked my
But
ticket.
right? Yes, please. So, but we do have, obviously, there's a lot, when you're getting a whole cow, there's a lot of parts on it that just need to be ground up because it's not going to make a good steak or a good roast. Although I did, you know how round roasts are kind of like cheap and not that great? Found a great way to cook round roast that is really
Ooh.
super tasty and tender. Yeah. So I'm not really like the recipe poster like you. Maybe I'll need to send it your way. It's not even hard to
Yeah,
do, but
I'll
it's good.
recreate it and just expose you. No
Okay,
gate.
sounds good. But all I'm saying is I get sick of ground beef sometimes. So we will cook a lot of it. And of course, my husband could just eat like straight burger. We don't even put it on a bun. We just literally eat burger patties like all the time. They'll be like pre-cooked in the fridge and you're hungry, you want a snack, like open up the thing, grab a burger patty and just eat it like cold, right?
Yeah.
He never gets sick of that. I will get sick of it. So then I find myself, if all we have is burger, I'm like under eating. I am less likely to go snack on something crazy. And I'm just like, forget it. I'm just going to, drink
Not
some
eat.
water or make a tea and then just like not eat anything. So I've learned the little tricks to be like, okay, we're sitting down at lunch. I know my body is hungry. I know I need calories right now. I don't really feel like eating this burger. So I will be like, ooh, I'm going to dip. This might sound crazy, but I will like literally put more salt on my burger and like dip it in honey or like put Parmesan on it. Like, random things that I'm like, oh, I like these flavors, and it just makes me eat more of it because I know I need to eat more of that beef right now. And so sometimes it's just asking yourself like, what works as far as flavoring for you, in order to help yourself want to eat more of that protein, because you're not always going to feel like it in the moment. And you can touch on this, Haley. I know for women, when you're on your cycle, there's sometimes even more so. For me, I'm like, if I'm having sweet potato and roast, I find when I'm on my cycle, I'm like, oh, I want to eat more of the sweet potato. But I still need to get some of that meat in too. You can't just totally eliminate it because that's gonna mess with you.
Yeah. There's some scientific things I'll get into why you want the sweet potato. But I have a funny story for you.
Yeah, what is it? Is it about
I
beef?
absolutely love steak too. And every time I'm about to go on my cycle, so like late luteal phase, I will just eat a full-on steak. No seasonings, no nothing.
Oh
I
yeah.
just love the taste of red meat. I'm just like,
Okay,
my
I'm right there with you.
the
That's me like all
primal
the
of
time.
me. I'm just like, I need a steak.
Oh, and yes, and trust us on this. If you eat enough protein and red meat, your body will get to the point where you can taste. I never used to be like this. I used to eat way more, like way less protein back in the day.
Mhm.
And now I'm at the point where I'm like, I can tell you, you don't even have to tell me what cut it is. I can tell you, like, oh, yeah, this is sirloin. This is a New York strip. Like, you can taste the flavor difference in the
Yeah.
meat if you eat enough of it. So you will find that you will even get variety within your protein. Like
Yeah.
to me, I'm like, oh, I'm eating chicken, and then I have this, and it's like, oh, all of these proteins taste so different. Yay, I'm so
Yeah.
excited. Whereas people will approach it like, oh, this is kind of boring. Whereas for me, I'm like, oh, we eat a lot of eggs, and I'm like, if you have a hard boiled egg versus a fried egg versus scrambled versus an omelet, you put some bacon and ham and cheese into your omelet. Like, there's so many ways you can make your protein variable. Because I think what happens is people are like, oh, that's so boring. I'm going to get so sick of that. I'm like, no, hold up. We got seasoning, we got spices, we got fresh basil. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many ways to still be creative that doesn't have to be total junk so that you enjoy the process so that you want to keep doing the process.
Exactly. You gotta add some variety into it. And anyone, like even I would get really sick of it if I just ate the same bloody thing every single day.
Bloody. Yeah, especially the raw. We're going full raw. Go for the bloody.
I don't know how people do that. I see people on the internet eating raw livers and raw things, and I'm like, oh my
I'm
god,
totally eating raw liver. Just saying.
how?
If you freeze
How?
it, you chop it
No.
up into little chunks. You can just swallow it like whole.
Okay, but like, do you enjoy it, or is that just because
That's
it's
just like
nutrient
swallowing it
dense?
like as if it's like a pill, right? Like
Okay, I
chunks of
have
liver.
pills. I have pills.
Like the dehydrated
Yes,
organs, right? Those are
yes,
great. If you haven't got your hands on those,
yes.
dehydrated beef organs, you can get like a mix of liver, spleen, all the great things that are going to give your body that iron and
Yeah,
all the yummy nutrients that it needs.
yeah. I just got sent actually, influencer over here. One's
You
from
just got what?
I sent, so I get free stuff now because obviously
Ooh,
I'm famous. From Primal Queen, and they've got beef liver, all grass fed, obviously. Like uterus, like fallopian tubes, all of the like
all
reproductive
of the
system of the
exciting stuff.
cow. And I actually really like it. I've noticed a lot of great things in terms of my hormonal health. So
Yes,
like ovulation for me is so much more obvious if you get what I'm putting down. You
I
picking up
get
what I'm
it.
putting down. Okay, cool.
Mine's always super obvious too. So your
Yeah.
body's healthy.
Yeah.
Your body's healthy.
Yes. And I was going to also touch on why you wanted sweet potato. So I'll go back to
Oh
that.
yeah,
This,
okay,
this
do it.
episode is a little bit all over the place. You're welcome. It's ADHD Awareness Month. So
Good. Hey, tell us about the sweet potato.
okay, so on your period, so things happen in your brain, obviously. So dopamine and serotonin are like your feel good, happy hormones, and they are at their lowest point. So a big part of why you want carbs is to spike up your dopamine and your serotonin levels, and carbs are the main source of foods that are going to do that for you. So that's why you want more carby things during your period and during your cycle. It can happen late luteal and it can happen on your period, but that's also another reason why you just crave chocolate and sweets and things like that as well. One of the reasons, obviously, is because it's emotional, and just being aware of what's going on in your brain and your body can be so liberating. So, if you're craving chocolate, it's not like, don't deprive yourself of things, but obviously make sure that you are getting enough nutrients that you need and your body needs to function and be happy on and have energy with.
Tell them
So,
about the protein. Is it the protein chocolate you've been advertising?
oh, have you seen my advertisements?
Oh yeah, I'm like, I know her.
How do you like them? You like them?
She's my celebrity friend.
Heck yeah. I really like it. I'll be very candid with you. I don't like the coconut and I don't really like the dark chocolate, but the milk chocolate.
Ooh.
Ooh, baby, that's milky. And I'm pretty surprised how they nailed that flavor because I really cannot tell the difference.
Wow.
Yeah, with the coconut and the dark chocolate ones, I can taste like the stevia. You know when you can taste the stevia
Yes.
and it's not the same. It gets the job done, but it just doesn't. I can't compare it to like a Cadbury chocolate. You know what I mean?
Right. I don't eat those, but yes.
I do. Well, fortunately, I love it.
I'm like so boring. We had this form to fill out for because I coach at the gymnastics club here, and it was like
Yeah.
get to know the coaches, and they had this form that was like, what's your favorite things and stuff, and I feel like my answers were all like, it was like, what's your favorite dessert? Dark chocolate. What's the food that you love the most? Dark
Beef.
chocolate. This is like 85% dark steak, dark chocolate. Do all you eat is steak and dark chocolate? Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
No, I
What
love
else do you
honey.
need?
I'm just kidding. No, but honey is one of those things that it's a go-to for me.
Yeah.
It's
So
a
I'm actually
way better source of like that sweet hit.
I am very thankful. My mom has 4 beehives,
Oh
honeybees.
wow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So I get homemade honey. And it's so, if this is going to sound
Wait,
like
your
she's
mom
also
makes it?
funny. Yeah, we got it for Christmas for her. It's, I don't know what it's called, but it's one of those things that it churns the honey out of the honeycomb.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and
It's fresh.
it's so interesting because the honey color, it changes based on the season and where the bees are getting the pollen. Bees are so interesting.
Yes.
I could have a whole other episode on what bees do.
We'll consider doing a bee episode.
It's
We need
crazy.
we should have
They're
your mom
so
on.
smart. Yeah, they're
That
so
would be
smart.
fun. Okay, I'd be very intrigued to meet your mom. We should have our moms
He's
on.
got
We should do a
chickens. We
mom.
just got chickens too. So we
Oh,
have
did
fresh
you?
eggs, fully free range. Like we're homesteading. We're
You
homesteading.
are homesteading. That's great. So how does that okay, so then here's what I want to know is what we've touched on so far, how it affects our sleep and recovery. We touched a little bit on well, we didn't talk a ton about strength training this episode, but we have had
We
episodes on
have an
that.
episode like on that, so go
That's
watch it.
fully on that. Yeah. So, but let's talk about the calorie intake more than you think you need, making sure you have enough protein, 1 gram per
Pound of body weight.
pound
I like
of
to
body
say,
weight.
or per pound of desired or ideal body weight. So if you
Right.
are like really obese, obviously eating 350 grams of
Right.
protein is not realistic. So per pound of ideal body weight is essentially what you want to do.
Yeah, that's a good point to
Yeah.
make the distinction. So I want to be 145 pounds, then I'm going to eat 145 grams of protein.
Yes, and I try and get my clients to eat a little bit above that sometimes when they are in a calorically a calorie deficit because you're more susceptible to muscle mass loss. So eating a little bit more protein can help just sustain that muscle.
And it
Right.
doesn't have to be extra lean. I'm just letting you guys know this. Like you don't
Yeah.
have to get like extra lean ground beef.
Yeah. No,
You
it
don't
could
have to
be
do that.
fatty beef or
Yep.
fatty meat. And like eggs are great. I've been liking chicken thighs too. I used to be really scared of fatty meat, to be honest with you, just because of the fat content. But it's great. I love it. Satisfied.
Yeah, it's gonna satiate you more.
Yeah.
Because that affects your leptin and ghrelin
Yeah.
levels, your
Yeah.
neurotransmitters in your brain.
Yeah. So
We
ghrelin.
just throw those terms out to sound smart, by the way.
Yeah.
I do have a
Ghrelin.
doctorate, but it's been a
Ghrelin.
long time since I read that
Yeah.
particular textbook.
Ghrelin is your hunger hormone, and
Yes.
that also plays into sleep and how sleep and recovery is so important. Is if you are sleep deprived and chronically sleep deprived is obviously not ideal because it does play into not gaining any muscle. But in terms of ghrelin, your hunger hormone, it does upregulate when you are sleep deprived. So you are just more hungry and more susceptible to overeating and maybe binge eating or overeating on like starches and carbs and all of that. Because your serotonin levels are lower. So sleep is very, very important. And then leptin is just the other half of that. So that's your satiety hormone. So it just lets you know that you are full and you don't need to eat anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, and the one that tells you are full doesn't spike up as high when you're eating something like cake rather than eating steak because when you're eating think about it. If you were to take the same portion size of red meat and set it out beside like your favorite dessert, you would be able to eat way more of the dessert because it's not as dense.
Yeah, for sure. And
So,
also on your fat loss journey, ghrelin is like leptin levels are higher if you are overweight, because I feel like it's your body just wants to be at a good set point weight, and so your hormones kind of reflect that. So the more overweight you are, the higher your leptin levels are, and if you're underweight, your ghrelin levels are higher, your hunger hormone, because your body is trying to get you to eat and get to a body weight, body fat percentage that is actually sustainable and healthy for you. So that's also very interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I was thinking too, when you were saying about sleep, obviously, when your hormones are in a better place and you are actually getting enough protein, eating the calories you need, you're going to sleep better. One thing I was thinking about as a mom, there's years of time as a mother where you don't get to choose your sleep disruption, where, you're feeding a newborn baby, or even as toddlers, they're waking up at night, they're waking you up. It's just something you learn to live with as a mom often. And I know I've been there, and it can be really sucky at times. It's one of those things, it's like you love your kids, so you do whatever you need to do for them, right? But be kind to yourself when you're feeling like you're not feeling great about your body, because part of it is you're not getting the sleep you need,
Mm-hmm.
and you're being very giving to everyone else. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because they need you. They're little babies. They literally need you to survive. But I think one thing that can be really helpful is to ask yourself, if you are at the phase where your kids are toddlers or they're getting a little bit older and they're still waking up at night and that's affecting your sleep, are your kids getting enough protein? Because maybe their sleep is disrupted because you are not. And I know it can be hard as a parent, like, oh, my kid only eats this or that. But I'm telling you, for your health and theirs, bring them on the journey with you. Like, get them eating more protein, get them eating foods that are going to satiate them better, because they're also going to sleep better, which is going to help you sleep better, and the whole family is going to be happier. So just want to
Exactly.
throw that in there.
Exactly. And the mom typically is like the anchor. So you have all of these habits and people kind of learn from you. So you have the opportunity to be that representation of health and how to take care of your body. And I like to tell my clients this too as well. It's like it's a very big thing when you talk to yourself negatively, like your kids pick up on that. So when you do, you know, saying things to yourself, just like think about it in a sense of like, would I want my daughter or my son to talk this way about their own body? You know what I mean? And you're passing down the way you speak to yourself to your kids as well. So that's a very important thing when you're going through this journey, because we all know self-acceptance through it, whether you're obese or overweight or underweight, doesn't matter. It is very important for you to accept yourself and respect yourself, to, speak to yourself with some kindness and respect.
Yeah, and acknowledge reality, because you might be at a point
Yeah.
where you are overweight and you weigh more than you want to, and so you might not be liking that about yourself, or you might not like how you feel, right?
Mhm.
And so just acknowledge reality and go, yeah, this is where I'm at right now. Accept that reality, but it doesn't mean you have to stay and live in that reality. You don't need to be stuck there.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. It's like, acknowledge reality, then ask yourself a question. I like to do we call it the AAA bond. It's like acknowledge, ask, and then answer. So you can do this when you're speaking to someone, or you can even do it with yourself, where you're like, okay, acknowledge where I'm at. Ask yourself if this is where you want to be at, or do you want to be at somewhere different? And then the answer then is seeking out the solution, help from someone, listening to this podcast, reaching out, coming up with a plan, following like what you said. You're going to need those data points to get from where you are to where you want to be.
Yeah. And I think there's a very big misconception that the journey to fat loss, or whatever your journey is right now, it's going to be easy or something like that.
Nothing in
Sorry.
life nothing that's really good in your
Worth
life is
it.
easy. Yeah, worth it. That's the word I'm looking
Exactly.
for.
And getting a little bit outside of your comfort zone is where you grow. And it will become your standards, the standards you hold yourself to right now, it will become easy at some point, and then you're going to raise them again. And that's going to become easy. That's how you grow as a person, but there's no reality where this is an easy thing and you can just go and do whatever you want and see the results that you want,
Yeah,
right?
but you're going to feel happy with it. It's interesting too. Like, we've talked so much about how your mindset affects everything. And I was just talking to a friend the other day, and she strength trains, and so do I. And it's one of those things, when you strength train, your body does get thick, like depending on how you strength train. And it's interesting is when you are strong, when you're going to the gym, you feel strong. As soon as you stop going to the gym, you feel fat. You're not, but like, it's funny because you're like, all of a sudden you're like, I miss the gym now for probably, I don't know, a week ish. Yeah, it was last Thursday, which is a lot longer than normal for me because I was sick over the weekend. It was total feel, and my body's still not quite right.
Everyone's sick.
I know. Let's not even talk about it. But here's the thing. It's funny because I can start to feel like same body, same person, same winning personality, and all of a sudden I feel like I'm like, man, I'm feeling kind of chubby. What the frig? Hey, I need to get to the gym. But then I'm like, no, you still need to rest because I don't feel 100% yet, and I have the show coming up, so I need to be strategic with my energy. But at the same time, as soon as I'll go to the gym one day after a break and be like, oh yeah, whatever, I'm strong. Look at how strong I am. Like the thickness is all of a sudden
The
strong
pump's
again.
back. The pump is back.
The pump is back. Yeah. So that is just an interesting psychology as well. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to work with it and go, sometimes your body needs rest. Sometimes you got to grind. I had another person I was talking to about that. It's like learning when to push and when to rest. It's like, it's always a back and forth between those things. If you
Yeah.
find yourself steady state, just like kind of coasting and not doing anything, then that's not okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Push,
And
rest,
just,
push, rest. That's
yeah,
a good,
that's how
good
you
thing.
avoid burnout too, or getting bored of the whole process. Because it's hard. If you're going to push your, I get kind of like, okay, people come to me or I see people on the internet and they don't work out at all. And then they make a plan January 1st. Okay, I'm going to hit the ground running and go to the gym 7 days a week. And obviously, like,
It's
okay,
not
you're going to be
sustainable.
absolutely miserable, like
Yeah.
miserable. And who wants to be miserable the whole time? And so
Yes.
you're just going to quit on yourself. So make it as less miserable as you possibly can. And then once it becomes a little bit more fun, then you can make yourself miserable a little bit more, you know?
Yeah. Well, and if you're doing it for health and fitness versus if you are an athlete that's like, I want to make the Olympic bobsled team, which we're going to have a Team USA bobsledder on, on the show.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Stay
Who?
tuned for that episode. That's exciting. Oh, well, we need to keep it like,
Oh, right,
we
right.
need to
We're
keep them
gatekeepers.
wanting to
It's,
come back. So
yeah,
you're gonna find out. That's gonna be exciting.
being
But
cheeky.
all I'm saying is, if you're pushing yourself as an athlete, you're gonna train a lot more hours and a lot harder. But that being said, you have coaches and you have a plan where you're actually following it, and it's gonna be the best thing to get you where you are in your sport. So there's a difference between like training for a specific sport and training for a sustainable, healthy lifestyle. That is where it's like it needs to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
Sometimes the whole athlete thing, I know I've been there, right, with training for gymnastics. There's times when it's not enjoyable, but the goal of wanting to qualify overrides your lack of enjoyment in the moment. So it really is, so much of it depends on what your goal is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you there. Lifestyle is so much different than professional sports, or you see these people who compete in like bodybuilding shows and things like that, and it's pretty extreme, and that's not comfortable at all, no matter how well they hide their pain.
I have a smirk on my face because you've got the like sun coming in.
I'm trying to like, oh, it's okay
No,
because
it's very
like
superhero-ish. I like that.
Wolverine.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, this has
I'm not
been
gonna
great.
complain. I'm not gonna complain because it's been raining and the sun is out, the sun is shining. It's gonna be a beautiful day.
Yeah, and it's making you look like a superhero, so all the better. And you are going to feel like a superhero when you eat sustainably, up that protein, track the calories, at least in the beginning, until you earn the right to intuitive eating. That's going to help with sustainable fat loss. Is there anything else you want to end us off on, Haley?
Not really. I feel like if you go through the motions in terms of tracking your macros or calories, protein intake, and get to a body, a lot of you guys might the time frame that you want to get to your ideal body might be a lot longer than you expect it to be.
It's going to take time.
Because yeah, it's going to take quite a bit of time. It might take some time of reversing and maybe going into a calorie surplus to build some muscle, and then going back into a slight deficit in terms of cutting, and then build up some more muscle, and just going back and forth for a little bit until you get to your desired body type and desired body composition. So this
It
is not
does.
going to be an overnight. It's not going to be a 12-week thing. It's not going to be a 30-day thing.
You're going to see improvement in the first year. If you stick
Yeah.
with it through year 2, you're going to be like, oh, wow. If you stick with it through year 3, you're going to be like, I feel like a professional athlete.
Yeah, exactly. And I think
Right?
it took
Year
me,
3 makes a big difference.
for sure, it took me, I think, 7 years to get to a body where I was like, okay, I'm good to like just chill here for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And you will get there too. Stick with it. Stay committed. We are here for your journey as a reference. Reach out to us if you need anything. We will do our best to be helpful. But how you can help is share this episode with a friend, because, you know, this is great information and we need more women to feel strong, healthy, and confident in their bodies. And
Exactly.
we need your help to do it. So
Yeah.
click the subscribe button. Make sure you leave us a rating or review. And in the meantime, be free, feel fresh, and live on fire. What?
Stupid sun. God damn it.